Thank you, Dr. Ras. Thank you, Bezet University and Modern Institute, for giving me the chance to speak out to you. Uh, I believe this has the three main reasons. On political Islam, addressing political Islam in Jordan is something that is surrounded by secrecy, lots of secrecy and confidentiality, and it's very difficult to access data and information that it's the deep secrecy, and even when there's starting to be the status quo government in Gaza, they keep their activities also by their budgets, their incomes, their revenues, the expenditure also are confidential. So this is an element that makes research in such a topic something very challenging, and because of the different resources. So I will limit my speech today about Hamas, which is the core of this grant. And what applies to Hamas applies to a big extent to the other factions that are less of weight or are less influential. The variation of the sources of these forces, and unlike what's happening in the PNA or Fatah or other Palestinian factions, are still these forces are still depending a lot on informal financial networks and parties forces or funding is that in numbers and data expenditures. Usually these forces and these parties get and don't gain one strength from their support and accordingly the level of from the support before we get into details, there is all the changes that we need to plan for. Three main comments that we will see during the different stages that these parties have undergone at the different stages for the funding, expenditure, and the types of research and investment, and in raising the investment level, and noting that these movements are treated themselves as secret movements, as happens in the Palestinian factions, and this will govern a lot the scope of their work and the scope of their funding. The first is related to how are they regarded? These movements, do they have an economic hypothesis that is limited to them? So this is a question, because all what is being said about religious thesis or economic thesis is could be only called as marketing, and that's not fundamental. I believe what is said by Islamic economic or Islamic theory in Islam is just a variation of the capitalism theory, and it was mentioned in the speeches that said before, even when talking about banks that take interest and endowment and to have Islamic banking, Islamic endowment. This is only propaganda and no more. And even Al-Azhar Sheikh said that commercial banks are a big base where these movements can move freely and benefit widely. The second point is the difficulty to separate between what is religious and which is political in the activities of these movements. This have given a wide spectrum of dialogue. The movements of Islam, political Islam, political Islam in the 40s and 50s of the last century, when they started to maintain or control a big space at the same time, and this is not also it means, and they took a big margin, which means that if we go back to the beginnings of Hamas, it was established at the beginning according based on a big pyramid of religious funds and movements. So they were empires, economic, social, financial empires with supported by the Islamic Brotherhood, and with the Jordanian kingdom, Hashemite kingdom, set its hand on the fund after it was the second biggest fund and after the Social Security Fund. The same goes for West Bank and Gaza and Israel, despite the occupation that started 1967 to now. And Gaza, it has following the Islamic Brotherhood West Bank and Gaza, we all know Gaza on the enemy is like anywhere PLA with its different factions, but all the that is in the PLO, they present themselves as which from the fundamental and their ideologies in all the Arab world, religious, political, which presented an excellent point, and I will struggle that this is solid like in Egypt. This was apartheid state many areas and social aspects. We remember of Cairo was the presence of Israel afterwards, and its implications for the presence of the government itself, and its strong bureaucracy without the Islamic Center, which is considered the second biggest fund in Jordan. It's with the they keep on we always see in up on what could be the Islamic politics. It's the confusing relationship with the power, with the national power, which is and my other brother is as baby of that's why it's very difficult to talk about this as locally profitable, even the strong financial it goes to America, and it does not end. This is not by coincidence. The USA is the question of the charity that was mentioned by Al-Qarib regarding the huge financial movements that there is financial arms of the Islamic movement. The main purpose to support us with this daily is exactly the older campaigns that PNA for the division happened between the authority and Gaza and claiming to drive the resources and other slogans that the Palestinian Authority have led its war against all these arms, and as we said, that they include lots of structure in this regard. Hamas, we can say it has undergone 5 stages. The first is a foundation until the eruption of, so, and it is also it's based on these local networks that are supported regionally, of course. But Hamas was until then was not known for its dependence on the financing, external financing, who are many, of course. And they come from different regional camps that are contradicting facts, but it was clear that Hamas had started looking for areas for foreign investments, and Saudi Arabia was the preferred client in regarding having it was the phase between the PNA's 1994 and the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza in 2005. This phase has witnessed the increase in competitiveness between Hamas and the PNA, and Hamas has succeeded in its operations in West Bank and 1948 lands in its suicidal operations formed a real challenge for the PNA and to disrupt its expansion, which made some regional forces note the this ascending movement as has raised the funding for it, and this support had multiplied in an unprecedented way until we reach the third phase, which is after the withdrawal and the elections and the control of Hamas on Gaza. This here we note that this phase have seen strong leaps in the capacities of Hamas, its financial and economic resources, especially in an investigative report that was published by a German newspaper that Hamas's time from 2005 to 2010 has increased, multiplied 13 times, that have exceeded more than $40 million, from $40 million annually to $500 million annually, which was a very important and significant phase in the development of Hamas and its financial strength specifically. The fourth, and here I want to mention the fourth phase. It's when it starts with the Arab Spring movements. And here Hamas is distinguished with 2 points. First of all, its relationship with Iran, and especially after the Arab Spring has affected Syria, and Hamas was ousted from Damascus to Doha and then to Cairo during the escalation of Islamic Brotherhood in Cairo. So this is where the retreat of the Israeli support was seen, and it did not stop, but it was recessed, and it was about $100 million used to be pumped to the Azzuddin al-Qassam. So these have retreated. In this time, Hamas was able to overcome this or compensate this financial support and facilitations it used to receive. At least under the Morsi's regime and the existence of Islamic Brotherhood and the chaotic situation in the Sinai neighboring desert. So there are differences in about 108 that made from $1 to $800 annually, that the analysis from the retreat of ensure support from agency Saudi to Turkey. So the transport to Turkey and a bit to Malaysia and Sudan was during all reasons that there was a main resource of financial support, economic resource. Iran has established some of its financial arms industries, had a condition on al-Bashir to secure these military factories in Sudan to stop. And we know that Israel has tried to stop this. This phase will be known for the emergence of a big polar that includes Egypt, UAE, Saudi, including Mohammed bin Salman, and support of some capitals like Jordan and other capitals who were opposing this movement as a sign of their opposition to Islamic dominancy. This was a hard stage that Hamas has encountered. It could be one of the most difficult stages, and this stage. I just would like to say that you're about to finish. Anyway, I'm going to summarize, and it used into managing the needs of people, but Hamas at all, and that was very clear in all the budgets that were analyzed in some reports, that Hamas's resources are used to Hamas, and the resources to Gaza. It can use like 200 million to spend on others, on people in Gaza. From the crisis, things of crisis that Gaza is that Hamas is facing, it's the Abu Ubaida's call, the spokesperson of Hamas through Telegram application to donate for Hamlet through Bitcoin. And as you know, these are nobody. They are ambiguous currencies, and there is appreciations that such processes can provide to Hamas big amounts of funds because there are no serious risks in to expose who are the donors or the finances. So this is. There's an open campaign now about all this issue. I don't want to, I wanted to talk about the disparities. How did Hamas and Fatah manage this file? But I will just mention that there is the separation between this movement and movement. There is a corruption within Hamas, but it is much less than what is acknowledged by the for the PNA or for the and especially the Hamas in investing, as we say, and if we say the resources and of course most investments had and whether it happened when masses $1 billion was more intelligent in for the section on the idea of Islam for things that have explainability for investments there is one that are able to read number of aspects and